at 10 with the BBC News, I'm Al Tansley. Hundreds of holidaymakers are waiting in the airport on the Greek island of Rhodes to try to escape wildfires burning out of control. Around 19,000 people have been evacuated from central and southeastern parts of the island. Firefighters say it could take days to bring the fire under control, and there's concern that high winds could make it worse. These tourists arrived back at Manchester Airport this afternoon and described their experiences on the island.
You could see the smoke coming over, and then the ash was dropping down, and we still smell the smoke.
The smoke was getting thicker yesterday. Ash was starting to fall and be blown across the area where we were.
On our way back from the hotel, you could literally just see a whole cloud of smoke. It was horrible.
EasyJet has said it will operate 2 repatriation flights from Rhodes tomorrow and a third on Tuesday to bring British holidaymakers back to Gatwick Airport. Labour has agreed a policy document that it says will form the basis of its next election manifesto. It includes a retention of the 2-child cap on benefits, but the party's biggest backer, the Unite Union, said it was unable to support the document in full because of what it claimed was a weakening of language on 0-hours contracts. A group of rowers who've clocked up 550 nautical miles across the Arctic Ocean are celebrating today after achieving their target. One of the team is Marine Matt Mason from Plymouth, who says they've racked up a series of records.
The first ever team of 4 to row this route, the fastest team of 4. We've got the oldest guy to row the Arctic on board. Matt Inglesby's on board. He's the first person to have rowed the Atlantic and the Arctic in the same year. And I'm the first person to have rowed the Mid-Atlantic, Arctic and North Atlantic Ocean. So the records are dropping.
Events across the country have been disrupted by the weather today. The organisers of Northern Pride in Newcastle closed the festival site a day early after it became unsafe due to heavy rain. And day ticket holders at the Blue Dot Festival in Jodrell Bank in Cheshire were told not to turn up and offered a refund. But the event's still going ahead for weekend campers. Grace Jones is playing the main stage there tonight. The new Barbie movie has had the biggest opening of the year. Warner Brothers says the film has made more than £120 million at the box office in the US and Canada since its release on Friday. It's doing huge business in the UK too. Sophie Blundell from Stourport is a Barbie impersonator. She says she's busier than ever.
We've gone from just doing weekend parties to now trying to fit in after school parties just because she's that popular. And then we've got a few visits ready for the Barbie movie, I think, to get the kids excited and drop off the cinema tickets.
In cricket, Australia have retained the Ashes after heavy rainfall prevented play on the final day of the 4th test. The draw means the tourists have an unassailable 2-1 lead against England with 1 test left to play. And the American golfer Brian Harman has won the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. He won by 6 shots to claim his first major title. You're up to date, it's 3 minutes past 10.
Sparky, oh Sparky.
Who's that?
A Barbie impersonator. I was invited to be a Ken impersonator, but I wasn't prepared to have me willy cut off. Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
Which I suppose is reasonable. I'm Allan Beswick. This is the Allan Beswick Late Night Phone-In. We're here till 1 o'clock, and I promise you, you are welcome to join us. Indeed, we'd rather like it if you did. So 0800 218 2255. Pick up your phone, have your say. You may talk about anything you wish to talk about, as long as you get it over by 1 o'clock in the morning. Good, isn't it? So, 0800 218 2255. The team tonight, we've got Tally. Who's Tally? That's the Bill. We've got Tallet and Ollie and Jason and Jack and me. That's it. That's the team. And 0800 218 2255 is the number. A new film, no, not that one, crying out loud. A new film alleges that Boris Johnson lied about being at death's door with COVID. Do you remember when he was Prime Minister, taken to hospital and ventilator and all that caper? Well, this allegation is that he lied all about it. It was a set-up. Now, frankly, I don't really care how many people call Boris Johnson a liar, nor indeed whether he is such a beast. But the alleger of this tale, a notorious anti-Brexiteer, is also calling the hospital, the doctors and the nursing staff liars, being complicit in this story that he says was not true. And that allegation, frankly, is beyond the pale. The BBC is in the news again over the licence fee. A new system of funding is needed, apparently. So what should it be? How should the BBC be paid for? A levy on broadband fees is one of the suggestions. Subscriptions on the good stuff and you get the crap like this for naught. Or more commercial activity. Or just plain advertising. How should the BBC be funded in the future? We know it's funded now. I've just bought my licence. I know, it's a lot, isn't it? Any road up. Well, I kind of make a profit on the licence in a way, don't I? But you know what I mean. So there we have it. Personally, and you might be able to help me with this, I've got no idea how I should, or even if I should, comment on trans issues. It's like being in a minefield, surrounded by people shouting directions to you when they haven't got the faintest idea where the bombs are. Well, it doesn't matter with me, I'm just a gob on a stick, but for teachers, it's a nightmare. How are they meant to deal with it? They've got to deal with it. They don't have a choice. Say the wrong thing, you could be out of work or got a smack in the mouth off somebody's parent. The government is supposed to be giving guidance, but it's been delayed once again, so the career-ending risks go on. And once again, we discuss something on the programme, and the next day a minister announces that they're shaking up the relevant bit of the system. Last night we had a longish chat about the lack of democracy in the planning system, and tomorrow Housing Secretary will announce changes to the planning laws. So if you want the government to hear something, say it on here. But the best thing I read today, the very, very best thing I read today, after declaring that if or when elected he won't change the 2 children rule for welfare benefits. I'm talking about the leader, of course. The Labour Party chat rooms have been less than supportive of that point of view, and they're calling Sir Keir Starmer Sir Kid Starmer. That must really hurt, but it's a cracking, isn't it? It's a cracking pun on his name, an absolute belter, and it must really hurt, but it's still, let's face it, being better. That's from the album Live at San Quentin, if you're interested in that sort of thing, which you were probably not, and to be honest, it's hard to blame you. If you want to join us, the number's 0800 218 2255, and whatever you want to talk about, as also do I. Well, why wouldn't I? They give me money for it. 0800 218 2255. So what should we talk about? I mean, is there a trans person listening who can give me some guidance on how anybody, broadcasters, ordinary Joe blokes or anything else, how do we talk about trans issues? Because there are issues about the use of loos and all of that. They're all out there. So how do we deal with it? There's nothing to be gained by somebody says, oh, I don't think that group of people should be able to use ladies' loos or whatever. There's no point screaming from the rooftops and threatening all sorts of things. Society moves slowly, and it moves by discourse. So you, me, and the rest of us, at some point, are going to have to find a way of accommodating all the different elements of society. And as those elements change in proportion, we have to find a way of dealing with that as well. Stands to reason. But how? You tell me. 0800 218 2255. Well, indeed. Talk about anything else. I'll do Kalpana.
Hello, Alan. How are you? So you are retiring soon. Are you retiring next month?
I don't know.
Hello?
I don't know.
You don't know yet. Yeah.
I don't know yet.
I could not phone you last Sunday when I saw men's final tennis. I was very busy, and I would like to say a few words about tennis, men's finals. Okay. Now, I was watching men's final. What a fabulous match. What a fabulous match. I loved every bit of it. And they had good rallies, very good rallies, good players, lot of running. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed. Djokovic, 16 years older than Carl, and he was really running so fast. But in the newspaper they say King Carlos Alcaraz. He was king, but real king is, I feel, Djokovic. Yeah. Who won 7 times. Yeah, what a great. And then the match lasted 4 hours 42 minutes. 4 hours 42 minutes. And deciding set was 6-4. I felt very sorry for Djokovic. In my opinion, he has been really a king 7 times. Yeah. Then of my family, we are very fond of tennis. My nephew is a tennis coach in America, and my father was a tennis player. He played tennis 6 days in 1 week, and he won many cups in his district. And then he played 4 days prior to his death. 4 days before, he played tennis when he was 81. And so what a amazing my father. Yeah. My brothers were very good. My late brothers were very good tennis players. And then, I won. I used to, out of 5 sisters, I used to play tennis regularly some years ago. In my local club, I played final, and my score was 6-2, and I won the cup. Yeah, I won the cup from 8 years younger woman than me, and my son won many cups in single final in England when he was in England. Then he went to Bali. Yeah, okay. And then I have been to Wimbledon. I saw live twice, and my late husband seen Wimbledon live 9 times. Can you believe 9 times? Yeah. So now a topic is, I got the king and queen's photograph with a card, lovely photograph. I sent them a congratulations card and a gift for queen, and they replied me, and they said, "Dear Kalpana, we are deeply touched by your most kind and thoughtful message following our coronation. We are enormously grateful to everyone who took part in the celebrations, and particularly appreciate that you so generously took the time to write to us on this very special occasion with best wishes for you and all from King Charles and Queen Camilla."
Right.
A lovely card.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Lovely to hear from you. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, even if you haven't had a letter from the King, feel free. 0800 218 2255. John Lennon is doing what I've just been doing, and that's starting over. He brought that out. He brought that album out. He was quiet for ages. Stayed at home making bread and all that caper, we're told. And then he thought, right, well, it's time to get back into the music business. I mean, he had his own studio at home, so I suppose he'd been doing stuff. And then he brought that album out, which was quite a good album with that track on it. That track did quite well. And then the next thing you know, he's dead. And I'm not combining to do. I'm not saying one begets the other. It's just he just suddenly gone, and just as he was coming back to the world, as it were, coming back to the public world for you and me and everybody else to enjoy, and it wasn't to be. But then, it often isn't. I'll do Oscar.
Oh, hello, Alan. I'd like to offer some ideas, some reflections on the by-elections that we had a few days ago.
Okay.
I don't know what you thought of it, but I was disappointed in a way that we didn't have something a little bit more significant in terms of a shift towards the parties that will be considered to be on the right of the political spectrum. In the 3 by-elections that we had candidates standing for, in the case of the Uxbridge by-election, we had Lawrence Fox standing on behalf of the Reclaim Party. And in the other 2, we had Reform UK candidates. Now, I think these parties, they would be, I would almost call them, if you remember the Monty Python election results sketch, they introduced a slightly silly party. I don't know if you remember that, but I would regard these the likes of Reform UK and Reclaim and Heritage Party, I would sort of regard them as being sort of slightly patriotic, slightly nationalistic. They're not perhaps as nationalistic as an ideal nationalistic patriotic party would be, but I think they would be a step in the right direction for this country. And I think that what happened in those elections and what's happened generally with the political scene is that you've got people moving away from the Conservative Party. People seem to be abandoning the Conservative Party. I'm hearing a lot of people saying, I voted Conservative before, but I'm really disappointed with the way things have gone, and I'm not going to ever vote Conservative again. And I mean, we've kind of heard that before, and then they've gone back on what they've said. But if you take those people at their word, and then when you look at the results that actually happened in those 3 by-elections, it would seem that the biggest thing that did happen was that the people who had previously voted Conservative didn't vote Conservative anymore. Some of the other parties, the support for them grew, but not as much as some people might have you believe that was being indicated. People were saying that there's huge shifts from Conservative to Labour or Conservative to Lib Dems. But it's mostly a diminishing of support for the Conservatives because people are disappointed with the Conservatives. So I would have thought that for those people who are the ones that did the most sort of shifting in terms of the demographics, and when you take into account what they have been saying as their reason for moving away from the Conservatives, which was that the Conservatives are not being conservative enough, which is kind of true, then you would have thought that these by-elections would have been a brilliant opportunity for those people, which are quite numerous, to have voted for these kind of semi-nationalistic, semi-patriotic parties that look like they are slightly to the right of the Conservatives in the way that UKIP was. This would have been an opportunity for all those people to say, right, what we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to vote for those parties, even if not as a way of saying that we believe that we should all now reject all the mainstream parties.
You're if you like, understanding of the psephology of it all may be accurate, I don't know. But you started by saying you were disappointed that there was no move to the right, and I can understand it. If you want to move to the right and there wasn't one, I can understand you being disappointed in there not being such a thing. But to tell the electorate that they really ought to deal with their disappointment in their party, speaking to the Tory bit of the electorate, and instead of staying at home they should have gone out and voted for someone to the right, you're entitled to do it, but to assume that was a thing that might have served their purpose, in other words, you know better than them about how they should vote, is almost as arrogant as it is stupid.
But, well, I'm going by what they were saying from what I heard them say. Well, whenever I've heard them speak,
I don't know how many people. I don't know how many people you heard speak, but if it's more than a dozen, I'll be surprised.
Well, even if it's a dozen, of the dozen, if you get a consensus among a sample, then you get an idea of what the
there isn't a consensus of any measurable kind based on the opinions of a dozen people. The reality is that in all of those constituencies, the Tory vote didn't turn out. Is the best defence that the Tories have come up with. The Tory vote didn't turn out. That isn't because they were going to vote for a right-wing party next time, or further to the right party, or even a party to the left. They just didn't like what the Tories were doing at present. And that's all you can deduce from it. And it's now up to the Tories, if they so desire, to try and convince those people that they ought to vote for them. And one of the ways they'll do that before the next election is by telling them whatever else they do, don't vote Labour or Lib Dem. They're not going to say, vote for us and we'll take you in a right-wing direction, because they could have done that this time and didn't.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of making 2 points. One is that I personally think that we should have moved to the right, and I would like to have seen a move to the right. That's my personal kind of position.
We got that. The word
but I'm also saying
conveyed all of that. What are you saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm also saying that the people who, Conservatives are considered to be on the right of politics, and what we've got with the Conservative Party is a Conservative Party that a lot of people say are just not conservative. They're not conservative enough. They're not right-wing enough. A lot of the things that they are doing, they look like...
Perhaps what happened was when they did vote for somebody and gave the Conservative Party a massive majority, that somebody seemed to have disappointed them considerably, so they've turned their back on it for a while. And the chances of a right-wing party getting elected, which would please you, clearly, judging by the results of the election, not the conversations or news reports of what 12 people have got to say, but the combined constituencies of about 60,000 people disagree with you. But you still might be right, Oscar. Good night. I'll do Michael. Michelle, sorry, my apologies. I'll do Michelle.
Oh, that's okay, Anne. Anyway, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Good evening. You were talking to a guy yesterday, and he was on about people telling the truth and lying and stuff like that. I think it was your first caller. And it made me remember a friend of mine told me that when she was working in a hotel, they had a visit from someone who came in, and she said, sorry, tramp's not allowed in here. He says, do you know who I am? And she says, no. He says, I'm Boxcar Willie. And she says, I don't care who you are, get out. I don't know if that's true or not, because I've looked on the internet and it says he hasn't even been in the UK.
Well, you never know. I mean, he may well not have been in, if you like, in... but making a big deal of it. He might just have been having a holiday here.
Yeah, that's I think it's the hotel she worked in. She saw David Soul as well. He went into the hotel that she was working as well, she said. So I suppose, as you're in radio, you must have met a few famous people.
Well, you get to sit opposite them with a microphone between you, and I suppose that constitutes meeting, but not really. They just come in, they answer their 9 questions, and they go away again. It's not like a relationship, you know.
Well, no, but you must have interviewed some famous people and stuff like that. Just wondering if there's anyone that really sticks in your mind.
No, not really. They're all kind of a mishmash, a blend. I mean, I've interviewed every Prime Minister since Thatcher until the recent lot, because I'm out of news-type broadcasting now. I've interviewed, I don't know, Cliff Richard, who else? Elton John, Mick Jagger, those sorts of names. But also, I interview people who are much more important than any of them. I interviewed a bloke who used to be the man in charge of the subterranean gents' toilets at Piccadilly in London. And we were interviewing him because he'd earned a little bit of fame, and I was interviewing him in the toilets underneath Piccadilly. And he was telling me that people would go in there, men, because it was the men's toilets, men would go in there and they'd go into the booths and they'd shoot up, which is putting needles in their arm and taking drugs. They'd go in there and they'd smoke dope. They'd go in there and have sexual moments on their own. They would go in there and they would have sexual moments with somebody else. Cottaging, as it's called. And his final remark was, when somebody comes in here just for a crap, it's like a breath of fresh air. So,
but it is, I've seen everything.
Well, indeed, but that's so you get to interview people like that who are not famous at all, but have a story to tell, and in his case, a very good line to tell it with.
Well, when I was in the Brownies as a young girl, I saw the Queen name a ship, and all the lads were all dressed up in their get-up and that lot to look nice and smart, and it was a really hot day. This was in Devon, and it was a really hot day, and all of a sudden they all started like falling like dominoes because it was so hot. They were just going, and I just didn't know what to do because I was only young. And the brown owl says, "Don't panic, they're okay." And I'm thinking, they're falling on their face. They can't be okay. You know, but yeah, I've seen the Queen name a ship. I think that's the only person I've seen famous, I think.
Oh, you know, you've not missed much. They're all the same, you know, they all do everything we do, go to the toilet, make love, have arguments, have rows, criticise their cousins, and all of that. They just happen to have found a marketable identity. And occasionally you might get to meet somebody who is famous, but you get to meet them away from the fame, and it is rare that they are just the same. And that's not to accuse them of being duplicitous, but they have a performance. I mean, believe it or not, this is a performance. The bloke that sits here isn't the bloke that was walking along the promenade this morning. It's just,
what, did you have nice weather to walk along a promenade?
I don't mind the rain.
Well, we've had his rain this month.
Well, indeed, but I was away for the whole of June was sunshine. You can't have everything, you know.
Oh, I'm trying to get my washing dry this month. It's been hard. And the other half's not happy with the electric bill, the tumble dryer.
Well, you know, that's why God invented the tumble dryer, for crying out loud.
Is there any chance you can play a song by Boxcar Willie, or are you not into his music?
Well, I've no idea who he is. I've heard of him, but no, anyone with a name...
He's a country and western singer.
Well, with a name like Boxcar Willie, he's going to be, isn't he? It's a bit like saying Soapbox Todger. But no, I don't think I'll be playing anything by Boxcar Willie.
Oh, play some Elkie Brooks then.
Well, Elkie Brooks would be acceptable, but I think I paid something by Elkie Brooks a couple of weeks ago, so I won't be doing that again either. But thank you very much, Michelle. Have a good night. How do Tracy?
Hello, yeah. Allan. Listen, I've rang up on a decoy man. Misdirection. I think that's the future. infiltration. Alan, what are you going to do with your life if you leave this, yo?
Well, I'll probably just do a little bit more of what I do now. I only do this for 6 hours a week, so there's quite a lot of other hours available.
So, you took more than 6 hours a week. How long?
I just do this 6 hours a week. 3 hours on a Saturday, 3 hours on a Sunday, 2 threes, from what I recall, are 6.
So you're bragging now, aren't you? So what's the wage like? I reckon I could do that.
I reckon you could as well.
Don't go. Yo, we love you so. Don't go away, Al. Yo, are you going to go?
Yes.
No, listen, get out. Listen, I was down at doctor's over there trying to get certificate for that. It said no, you're in good health. Yo, it said you might live to be 110. Oh, that's where it's going now. You listen, you're only 70. Now 70 is the new 50.
Well, indeed so, but I'm 70. I'm 74.
So you're 54?
No, 74.
No, so in the new world, shut up. Where are you going to go? And what are you going to do?
I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to go anywhere, and I'm going to do what I do for the other 162 hours of the week.
Well, what does Mrs. Beswick want you to do?
Well, it's none of your business.
Well, does she want you to give up?
It's still none of your business.
Well, it's everybody's business, really, because you're out there.
Well, you can say it's everybody's business, but I can say it's not, and therefore not tell you.
Yeah, but I can, and that's what counts, yo. Alan, good luck, yo. Don't, I don't, I'm telling you, them girls they're brilliant, but it won't be the same, you know. It just won't be the same.
Not my concern.
Oh, you arrogant little...
You're absolutely right. Even though you didn't say the last word, it would have fitted admirably. Do have a good night. How do, Peter?
Hello, Alan. How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
You're on telly tonight.
Why?
I don't know. You're on the end of Northwest Tonight. They had your picture and everything.
Oh, dear God.
It's not your last night tonight, is it?
No, not as far as I'm aware, but, well, I have no idea.
That's what I was ringing about, to be honest.
As far as I know, it's not my last night, but who knows? There may be a note waiting for me when I come off air. I haven't the faintest idea.
No. But about 6 months ago, there was a lot of talk in the radio about local radio and changes being made to it in March. Mm-hmm. And we're in July, and those changes haven't happened. What's actually stalled everything? Is it
all sorts of things, really. Yeah. It's a very, very complicated process involving, well, there's let's say 40 radio stations, 40 people. What's that? That's an awful lot, isn't it? Mm. That's 1,600 people.
Yeah.
Is it?
Something like that. Yeah, 1,600.
Yeah. So that's 1,600 people, and then there's all the programming. It's many, many hours of broadcasting, and so there's a lot to be done. And
have they changed their mind in some ways as well then, or is it it's just taking them longer than they thought?
They haven't changed their mind.
Yeah.
In that it is still the intention to change local radio. They by they I mean the BBC management teams. They believe that local radio needs to change if it's to continue to serve the people, because the people it serves this is throughout the radio business, not just BBC local radio. Yeah. Radio audiences are diminishing, and the audience is listening to broadcasts, for want of a better expression, on the internet is growing, and so you have to go where your audience is, and so they're in the process of moving part of BBC local radio more towards the internet.
You're absolutely right. I was reading yesterday that the Irish radio station, RTE1, used to broadcast on long wave along with Radio 4. And I think last month they shut down the long wave transmitter because they said the cost of running it is more than the audience and producing some of the programmes. So, and as you say, people are changing to internet, and that's the way of the world, unfortunately.
I mean, who am I to predict? I know very little about the whole sort of mechanics of the business, but I reckon within a decade there will be no substantive radio transmitters. You'll still have community radio stations, but you won't have nationwide radio stations. You'll have
What about car listening, though? Because you can do car listening via the internet on your phone, but because of the signal problems, it does drop out quite a lot at the moment. I suppose they could plug the gaps in that, could they? Or
well, something could be done. At the moment, it's to do with how you access the internet, and people do access it on the car radio or on their mobile phone, like they access sat-nav on their phone. Many people these days, having a sat-nav in the car, you don't buy one, you use your phone. But, some cars these days have it built in.
Do the ones that you get with the car update, or is it just the ones on the phone that are more current?
No, they update. I mean, it depends on, I suppose, what package you have, but yes, they update. I've yet to find mine at fault, but, it's only been, 2.5
Mine
years.
did send me to, I think it was Rochdale once, when some friends of mine wanted to go to McDonald's, and I wanted the one in Oldham, but never mind.
Well,
and I swore at it, but there you go.
Well, there are many of us who have sworn at sat-navs and other computerised devices, but that's where it's going, and that is the journey.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that term, I don't know why I used it, but that is the process that is underway, and it's very complicated, and whilst expecting it to be ready by March, you have to, if you want to get something done, you need a target date that's challenging. There's no point saying, well, let's do it by 2025. Because if you do, you won't start doing it until you're halfway through 2024, because there's always something pressing right now, so you can say, I'll just leave that. It's, we're in no hurry with that, leave it. So you give a date that's challenging, in the full knowledge that you might not make it, but at least everybody's working full pace to get to that date. Okay, they don't get there, but they get there soon enough, as it were. So that's the process they're in now.
It is a shame, because I'm a radio person, really. I was born and bred with it, and my mum used to have one of those, mum and dad used to have one of those huge wirelesses with all the names on that lit up, and fantastic. But we're in a different world, unfortunately, today.
Well, indeed. On that one, you used to be able to get...
And it was live then, wasn't it? It was actually
it's live
live
now.
radio. It isn't, unfortunately. Most digital radio is actually a little bit slow. And
well, it's still live.
You're 34 well, I know it's called live, but it isn't actually live, is it?
Well, yes, it is. It just happens to... The
slow.
transmission... Well, no, the transmission process takes time. It's always taken time. And some of the transmission processes now are faster than the others, and some are slower than the others, inevitably. And so whilst this is happening now, somebody may be hearing it half a second later than you, depending on what system you're using. But it is live. It isn't pre-recorded. It's live.
Oh, yeah, in that sense, you're right. But what I'm saying is, if you set your watch to the time signal, you're wrong, because it's out slightly, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's never been instant.
If I set my watch to FM radio, it's right. If I set it to BBC Sounds, it'd be 34 seconds slow.
No, I'm sorry, you're wrong. If you set it to FM radio, you think you're getting it instantly. You're not. You're getting it possibly a millionth of a
second, maybe.
Right, so that's not instant then, is it? So in your definition,
in terms
even
of
FM...
accuracy,
I'm sorry, Peter, you can't use the same argument for both points. You can't say that DAB is a second slower, therefore it's not live, and FM is a tenth of a second after the fact.
Millionth of a second. It's not
even a million. It's not bloody live. It's you either accept the concept of live means
it's the best going.
Peter, you either accept that the concept is that the performance is live, and that's what they're talking about, and if you then say, well, unfortunately, I don't get it for a full second, therefore it's not live, then you cannot have live. Even if you're in the theatre and you're at the back of the auditorium, it's not live, because the actor says, alas, poor Yorick, and a millionth of a second later, the people in the gods hear him say, alas, poor Yorick. But a millionth of a second before, the people on the front row heard him say, alas, poor Yorick. So it's not even live for the front row, because time's slow.
It's funny when I'm watching a football match in the pub, though, and I'm listening on medium wave, and I can tell who scored about a minute and a bit before they...
Yes, because telly's very slow, because it has a lot of things to be done before it gets to you. But it's still live, unless you want your pedantic definition, in which case nothing is live.
Exactly, so we'd have to pay a licence fee for it.
In fact, if you take your pulse, can I tell you that you are wrong when you take it? Because when you feel the bump in your arm, you're actually feeling something that happened a zillionth of a second ago. So it's not live. So you're dead. Hard luck. Good night. How do Mike?
Hello.
Hello.
When you are enjoying listening to you over the telephone, talking to other people, and you turn an FM radio on quietly, they are, to all intents and purposes, exactly the same.
Yeah, but that bit, to all intents and purposes, covers a multitude. If you... I don't mean you, but Peter was doing what I do best, and now he's being an absolute pedant.
Yeah. Now,
I can hardly criticise pedantry when he's kept me alive, but go on.
DAB, Alan, is basically about 3 seconds behind,
I know.
And the internet is 42 seconds behind.
Well, I don't think the internet is. I don't think the internet is broadcasting in the same way. It does some other stuff. But yes, I'm aware of the different timescales. This may escape me notice, but I do this for a living.
There's a lot of processing involved, and that's why it's so far behind. But Peter's reckoning of 31 seconds is quite a long way out. Anyway, so do you reckon that FM will be basically a redundant band in 10 years?
Well, yes, I think so. For national and regional broadcasting, that's my prediction, but it is just a prediction grasped out of the air. But I can't see, in terms of regional and the like, I can't really see people, radio stations, commercial and the BBC, paying all the money it takes to broadcast from broadcast stations rather than just slap it on the internet.
So really, things like they won't have to run Home Moss or Moorside Edge anymore.
Well, wherever the transmitters are.
Those are the two transmitters.
No, don't tell me. We tend not to mention where the transmitters are. It's kind of not really the way it's done.
Oh gosh. Okay. What I have been thinking about is things that we tend to take for granted. Mm-hmm. And this may be something that we've mentioned once before. I didn't check my records before I came on air, but what can you tell me about Michael Faraday historically?
Not much.
Right.
I think he invented, I think that he's most famous for, best known, he's not famous, is he, but best known for the Faraday cage.
Yeah, didn't he, how does the Faraday cage work?
How does it work? Well, I'm begging if I know, I'm not a scientist.
Right. Well, didn't he have something to do with I can't say the discovery of electricity, but didn't he have something to do with the realization and the bringing to fruition of working electricity?
I think he was involved in that, yes. I think he was one of the people who worked with electricity in the early days. I don't think we can we can credit him with the discovery of, or the development of, other than he made a contribution within it, I think.
Yeah. What year are we looking at, Alan?
Oh, I'm begged if I know.
Right. How does it actually work? I mean,
how does what work?
Well, it's weird stuff when if you look at it as purely as a layman. I mean, it comes to, it's not really like anything else, is it?
I don't know what you say. I don't know what you're saying when you say it.
Electricity.
Well, yeah.
The phenomenon of electricity.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. How do you produce it?
Produce. You generate it rather than produce, and you generate it by moving a magnet through a coil. A coil is also a magnet, as it happens, but you move a magnet through a coil, and that movement causes the atoms in the coil to oscillate, and they make the ones next to them oscillate, and eventually at the other end of the piece of wire, those are oscillating.
How is it that you can get 250 volts coming into your home? I mean, how does it work?
I don't know what you mean. How does it work? I mean, they send the voltage, the amperage, to you via a wire. That's how it works. In the same way that you get your water, it comes via a pipe.
Yep.
How does it work? They put it in at one end, and it comes out the other.
So how is it put into the wire at the generating station?
It is. The atoms already exist. The electrons. This is very basic, and any physicists or scientists of any kind want to come on and correct me, I'm happy to hear from them. But the electrons are spinning around the proton within an atom. If you apply magnetism through a coil, so you move the magnet through a coil, that will cause the electrons to move to the next atom. So if you imagine a daisy chain a mile long, then an atom at point 1 jumps across to the second, an electron at the first atom jumps across to the second, and that causes all the replicated atoms to move along all the time. So you put it in one end, like water, and it comes out the other end. And I begin
to understand what you mean.
It's basic. Very, very basic.
Yeah, but it's a mystery to many of us. It's something we don't think about enough. So, how do you achieve a specific voltage, Alan?
I don't know how they do it, but it is controllable in that, you see, voltage is just one of the measures of electricity. Current is the principal one, that is how much is flowing. The voltage is, if you like, shall we call it the energy that's in that flow, and the other one, the amperage, is a mixture of the two. So if you increase one, you decrease the other. So you get that.
Are you able to tell me anything about the difference between AC, alternating current, and DC, which we don't use over here?
Well, we do. We use it all the time.
In batteries?
Well, so that's called using it. Our generation is AC. I'm not aware of any country that has DC as its electricity supply, domestic or industrial. So
America used to, didn't it?
I've no idea. But AC is, as it says, alternating current. So if you put it on a measuring device and an odometer, not an odometer, it's a speed one, but I forgot the proper name for it, but never mind. You put it onto one of those screens.
Oscilloscope.
That could be one of them, yes. If you apply it to that, then you will see a waveform. like a graph, if you will, and that is the electricity moving in one direction and then the other, one direction, then the other. So it goes, it comes back, it goes, it comes back. But you represent that rather than that way and that way. You represent it by a graph, a wavy line. DC just goes in one direction. Now, DC isn't very good at making things move. And most of the stuff we have, we want it to move. We want it to do things. So you want AC, alternating current.
Yeah. DC is actually supposedly dangerous from what I understand.
It's all dangerous.
Oh, terribly dangerous, but I believe DC is reputedly much more dangerous for some reason, which I do not understand.
It depends. I mean, we used to test batteries as kids, and I still do. You know, if you have your little... You know, the little 9-volt box battery that we used to have.
I do indeed, a PP3, yeah.
I don't know their numbers, I'm not an anorak. But if I wanted to test whether it was live or not, you'd lick it.
That's it.
Now, I wouldn't do that with a car battery, because that would be unwise. But what we used to do, and we used to do this for fun, was get a steel rule and drop it onto the terminals of a car battery and watch it flash and fry off.
Well, wow.
It's called being stupid. When in our physics lessons at school, Jerry Rees, our physics teacher, had us all sit round in a row, in a circle, and we're all sitting there holding hands, and then at the desk where he was, the first two kids had little pieces of brass, and they had to touch both sides of a... you know, you get two wires and there's an arc between them, an electric arc.
Yes.
And he got one of them to touch it, nothing happened, got the other one to touch it, and we all got an electric shock.
Yeah. The only equivalent I can give you, Alan, was one day I went to a friend of mine's shop, and at the end of the visit he gave me one of those batteries, which you just mentioned, the 9-volt one. And I just stuffed it in my pocket and thought no more about it. But when I was coming home on the bus, I was sitting next to a woman, and I thought that my right-hand side's getting very, very hot. She must be hot stuff. Anyway, I moved slightly to the left because it was slightly embarrassing, and I risked putting my hand in my pocket, and what had happened was that this battery had touched some money in my pocket. All of its power had gone in within a couple of minutes, I should think, as the terminals were against these coins. My son was very amused when I told him about it when I got in.
Children are a bit like that.
They are indeed. Anyway, you've been very helpful. Thank you ever so much.
It's all right. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you can. How do Jessica?
Hello. Going back for a moment to what you're saying about the sound waves.
Yeah.
Recently, because I had a lot of ceremonial on TV over the past year or so with the coronation of the Queen's dead, or the other way around. And I remember one shot of a group of soldiers, and it was an overhead shot, and the officer in front said, "Hip, hip," and they all said hooray and raised their hats. You could actually see the wave.
I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah. Just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I wanted to ring up is just to give advice to anybody who has to deal with one of those, "Do you know who I am?" people. The very best way of doing this is to take on a expression of, like you're trying to explain to a 4-year-old why they shouldn't be eating earthworms, and just say, "Have a look in your pocket. Somebody might have put something with your name on. We did that with my uncle when he went to Big Doolally." That stops them in their tracks, politely.
Yes. I must admit, it's not a line I've ever used.
Well, you're not as devious as me, love.
No. I meant the first one, "Do you know who I am?" And most people would say, "No, who are you?" And I'd say, "I'm Allan Beswick." And he'd say, "Yeah, but who are you?" Have a good night, Jessica. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone and have your say. You can talk about absolutely anything. And without Michael Faraday, you wouldn't have electric cars. How do, Sam?
Hi, Alan. I'm going to end my conversation with a joke. So can you not hang up on me while I'll talk about what I want to talk about?
It depends on whether I get bored or not.
Okay, so in electricity, first I painted my room, I painted my house, like all the walls, and then I painted over the socket. And then the next day, I was trying to switch the light on, and I got a very severe electric shock. And then I was like puzzled why I got the electric shock. Then I realized the paint went through the gaps, and then obviously if you went through the gaps, it's all connected. And then when I switched the lights off, and I got a very severe electric shock.
A very severe electric shock means you're dead.
I'll say it was mild, because I've had electric shocks in the past, and it was nothing like this one. My fingers were frozen for like couple of seconds, like 10 seconds.
Right.
Yeah. So
that wasn't the joke then.
No, the joke. The joke. I'll say it then. So this is a tip: if you're going to paint over your socket, you need to be careful, because then if it's not dry, you will get electric shock.
The better advice really is don't paint over your sockets.
Yeah, because you have to buy special paint for it. Yeah.
No, you don't want special paint for it. Don't paint over them.
Yeah. Well, people like to paint over stuff.
Well, I'm sure they do, although,
There's a huge industry
painting over your electric sockets is unwise.
That's true. Yeah. Alan, what do you think? Twitter, Twitter, they've changed their logo, and I've always loved Twitter logo because you're tweeting, and it was a bird. There's a bird tweeting, and I always really did like the logo. I thought it was really cool. But then Elon Musk, he's changed the logo to an X. He's changing it to an X.
Was that the joke?
No, that's not the joke at the end. I just thought I'll say a joke in the end. Because you know what happened? I used to live down south, and I met some really. I met the CEO of the
Hang on. Is this the joke?
No. The joke is later on. Yeah.
Well,
so now,
not much later, I hope. The thing after this had better be the joke. Go on.
No. So I was at a pub, and I met some highly rated, respectful people in the communication industry in that pub. And then one of them was, and honestly, I'm not lying, one of them was the CEO of headquarters of Twitter in London. And we spoke about Twitter very briefly. They were struggling to make money at the time because the advertising is not like Facebook. Facebook is very much concentrated on people. And then I've always loved the logo, and now they've changed the logo. So I thought,
we've already done this. You told me a little while ago. You said before we changed the logo, and you don't like it.
Yeah, because that lady said famous people you met. So I thought. That's how I thought I'd talk about Twitter. I met the CEO of.
Well, he's not famous.
No, but he's very respected in that industry.
No, we were talking about famous people. We're not talking about people who are very, 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 very clever. He's not famous.
I met a very famous singer in London as well. I forgot his name though. He was very.
Well, not that famous now. Should we do the joke? Do you know how I said do the joke if I don't get bored? Well, I have. What's the joke?
Okay, the joke. So and a fairly older.
Just tell the joke.
That's the joke. Because I'm interpreting the joke. It's a foreign joke.
Right.
So
okay. Well, have a good night with your joke. How do Tim?
Hello there, sir. Mr. Beswick, just a quick question. As regards where Mr. Faraday is with having his bank account cancelled because of his views, do you feel it right that they can take the money from drug dealing, prostitution, money laundering, but because you've got a view, then we're going to cancel you. We're going to keep taking the money off stuff that they're making millions of pounds out of.
Your question contains an inaccuracy.
Why is that, sir?
Well, I was going to tell you. When you say they can take money off a drug dealer and all the rest of it, they can't. Or at least if they do, they're breaking the rules. And they could have their licences revoked.
But it goes on. And we know it goes on.
It does
and their
go
licences
on.
aren't revoked.
Well,
but the moment that we have a view on anything...
Criminals... I mean, we need to separate two things here. Yes, I'm not a defender of the banks. I'm not. But there are laws and rules that cover banking, and they have all sorts of processes by which they try to stay within those laws. But they're not infallible. Now, we've established that. The banks do have customers like those you've described, but they haven't chosen to have them, and they haven't decided that, oh, yeah, he's a drug dealer, that's okay, he's bringing us lots of cash. So we've established that. Now say what you wanted to say about the other side of it.
But the moment that they come across somebody that's got a view that is... I don't want to use the word woke because everybody's into woke and what have you, but that has a view that differs from what they want, then, oh no, we'll shut that off.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not see that side of it, Alan?
What do you mean, do I not see it? It's their fault to see. I'm not a blind person.
No, I know what you're saying, but they are not... They are there to provide banking. They're not there to provide moral guidance. The church seems to get involved in politics. Politics get involved in the church. It's not their job.
You've missed the major point.
What's that,
the banks are there to make money. They're there for nothing else. Now, if they choose to make money by saying, and in the process of making money, saying, we want not to deal with people that we find unsavoury, that's like a pub not letting a regular drunk in. They are entitled to do that.
Yeah. I do follow your logic, but I'm beginning to think banking is to do with money. They're not in charge of what I think. Politics are to do with politicians, religion to do with religion. Can we not stay in the right frame of what we're supposed to be doing, but all of a sudden my bank is now telling me how I should think?
No, they're not telling you how you should think. They're telling you if they don't like the way you think, they don't want to do business with you.
Yeah,
they're just a business. They're not saying you should think other things. They're saying, we don't like what you're doing, and so we don't want you as our customer.
Ah, right. So we're going to see all Stop Oil people stop getting electricity.
I've no idea. We're talking about banks, but the electricity people could do that if they chose. But they're much better at making money, really, than the banks are at present. And the only way a bank can make money is by ripping off its customers. There is no other way. The electricity people at least give you something for it. I just did.
Oh, sir, that's not allowed.
Oh, fine. Hard luck, innit?
They're in court. They're up in front of the government for it this next week. But hey ho, there we go.
They're in front of the government for it because the government want to get them to change their mind, and they'll do it with a threat of changing it for them by introducing legislation that changes it. At the moment, the banks have to behave in a way that they didn't used to behave because the government have made them do certain things to help diminish the chances of the kind of industries you were referring to. And it may well follow that the banks decide, well, okay, we don't care what you think, we're going to carry on doing. Obviously, the bank in question, the NatWest, is in a difficult position because the government's got a big chunk of shares in it. But of course, if the government says to the banking industry, if you don't behave in a way that we want you to, we will change the rules to cause a way that you'll have to.
Do you think they're firm enough? Do you think that will happen?
I've no idea. It's the future.
It's the future. All right, sir.
I have no idea. I have no idea what the government thinks. I only know what the government has said. I have no idea what the banks think. I only know what the banks have said. The two of them will come together at some point, and there'll be a meeting, and they'll have a discourse, and someone will possibly come out in top. Or possibly both will agree, let's do nothing, and it might go away.
Yeah, right.
All of that
very
is possible.
interesting stuff. Thank you for hearing me anyway, Alan. Thank you very much indeed.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How lovely to think that banks and other businesses are fine, upstanding creatures. Yeah, right. How did Danny?
Oh, well, it's only to do with boxing, yeah, and mental health issues as well, by the way. Me and a couple of the family, we watched a documentary on a certain channel the other night, and it was Frank Bruno against Mike Tyson. They had two actual contests. So the first contest, well, Bruno done quite well, but after that, Mike Tyson was jailed, as we know, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But Bruno won the world title then against Oliver McCall. And then Tyson was released from prison, and he fought a second time. And Bruno was still very weary, you know, going into the ring, you could see it. So what was great about the program, Bruno, it showed after that. Bruno was beat, obviously, and Bruno went to a very bad downward spiral, and you know, the poor fella had a breakdown, and for some unknown reason, he was found in in Liverpool, in Kirkdale, looking for certain people, his so-called friends. Anyway, this time now, Frank went over to America to Mike Tyson's house and met up with him, and the two of them are speaking, you know, in the house as good friends.
Yeah.
And when he, you know, it was really good to watch, but they both been through mental health issues, you know. So when he left the premises, Frank, he said, I feel so great. He said, even though I went through bad things compared to what Mike Tyson went through as a child, he said, basically, there's no comparison, and I feel a hell of a lot better. He said it was inspirational for me.
You said you wanted,
you know, in that way.
You said you wanted to talk about boxing. What you've actually talked about is two particular boxers, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, but
and you said you wanted to relate it in some way to mental health. Can I bring you to that?
That should do with the mental health issues, what they both went through, and also it was the boxing issue that I mentioned as well. So.
Well, let me, because we're not making any progress. Let me ask you: are you hinting at or dancing around the idea that boxing causes the people involved to have mental health issues?
No,
okay.
No,
as
not
long
at
as
all.
we establish that. Okay.
Not at
so
all.
What are you saying about? What are you saying about? What are you saying about boxing and mental health? You put both of those in the same sentence. What do you want me and anyone else that heard it to take from that sentence?
Okay, what I'm trying to say is they were both great boxers, right?
Yeah, well,
so
everyone who knows boxing knew that, so...
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying they got onto the subject of the mental health issues, what they'd gone through. And they both took inspiration from each other. Even if it doesn't matter if they're rugby players or footballers, they took it because they were in the limelight of that. And the song you played early on, Starting Over, by John Lennon, even though he might have meant that at all, John Lennon, he just wrote it about, you know, his own family or whatever, starting over. And there's a way of starting over. So if that gives a message out to anyone who's gone through them issues.
What message? I'm confused. You said you wanted to talk about boxing and mental health. So what are you saying now about starting over?
Well, starting over is a way for people, even if it's in football or rugby or anybody who's gone through that.
So starting over, what do you mean by the expression of starting over?
Well, it means starting over. It actually means that you can basically pick up the pieces and begin it again.
Right.
You know. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Okay,
yeah.
well, thank you for
when it brought the boxing... Well, hang on, excuse me. When it brought the boxing issue into it, I'm a fan of boxing. So that was a part of it, you see. And, you know, it was only because it was related to that issue.
Right, you know. Well, thank you for that, Danny. We're going to talk to Shafiq, we're going to talk to Trevor, we're going to listen. Sunak is logging on to the BBC News website because the first story on there is Spain's Conservatives lead with the election count nearly over. If that doesn't pay him off, nothing will. How do, Shafiq?
Hello, yeah, today's subject is a liar, lying. I'm Bengali, I'm Bangladeshi. I'm proud of I'm Bangladeshi. But from my primary school, I know true name is this our Bengali, true name is a liar. All Bengali knew that, British knew that. One is a Mirzafar, one is a Johurul Islam. Johurul Islam was, when I was in primary school, Johurul Islam was Bangladesh's richest man. He found his offensive, crime offensive, criminal offensive in Saudi Arabia. Then he need to be cut hand, but after one finger cut. And Mirzafar Ali Khan, you know, in primary school, in the book, my friend, Sir Lord Robert Clive, his statue in near Downing Street. I already give flower in his statue. Then his time, 1757, in the Polashi War in Kolkata, the one liar Bangladeshi is Mirzafar. He lying to our king Nawab Sirajuddaulah. That's why we Bengali lose and British taking over all Mahabharata. So I'm come to the point. God messenger Jesus Christ. He's not lying his book in the Bible. Every single word come from God. He received it. When he come back again, he will be challenged. It is my book, but I am Muslim now. Another messenger is a Muhammad. Peace.
Well, he'll have done the rounds, wouldn't he? Jesus started out a Jew, started Christianity. He's going to come back and be a Muslim. Have a good night. How do, Trevor?
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
I am still getting over a statement of yours last night that came as a total shock to me, which was, if you weren't paid, you wouldn't do this.
I know, it really upset some bloke.
I know. I mean, who would have thought it?
Indeed so.
Anyway, it's your not favourite time of the week,
all right.
Cryptic crossword time. So, here we go. Don't meet a type of comedian. 2 words, 5 and 2.
Stand. Oh, no, go on.
Yeah.
Stand. Someone. Go on.
Yeah. What do they do?
Well, they stand up. But
there you are.
Oh, you said 5 and 2. I thought you said 5 and 5.
I didn't.
No, it's me.
Oh, that's all right. Well, you got that one.
I abbreviated it to stand 2 5s.
Okay.
Go on anyway.
Right.
I got one. Well, there you are. Let's stop.
Yeah. Oh, go on. Let me do another one.
All right.
Prime Minister of Paradise, 4 letters.
Prime Minister of Paradise?
Yeah, 4 letters.
Don't know.
Eden.
Oh, very good, yes.
Right, on to even sillier stuff. I may be preempting your possible future paper review, but the Daily Star, most people's newspaper of choice, has got a good headline tomorrow, which is "Wait for the Green Man," and "wait" in the headline is spelt WEIGHT. Wait for the Green Man, and the story underneath says, "Hawky Brits get longer to waddle across the line."
Excellent.
Oh, dearie me. Right. So there was that. And then, as usual, I've been kind of roaming around the media, looking for strange stories and enjoying them myself and hoping that other people might. Who knows? So I've got a squirrel story to start, which I'm sure will be right up your street, Alan. It's from Leeds, and a squirrel trapped in a loo roll is rescued. A panicked squirrel 30 foot up a tree, having got a roll of toilet paper stuck on its head, was coaxed down by firefighters using a pole. I'm not sure I call that coaxing if you stick a pole. Anyway, coaxed down by firefighters using a pole. They then removed the loo roll and set it free. And I was just thinking, I seem to recall in several of your conversations about squirrels, there's some issue about grey squirrels if you catch one or have one under your control about releasing it. Am I right?
You are correct. That would be deemed to be releasing vermin.
Well, there we are. That's apparently what happened. So, second story. Whale vomit found on beach worth £40,000.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
So this was a gentleman in Fife who was wandering along the beach with his kids and found 2 kilograms of, do you say ambergris or ambergris? I'm never quite sure.
I don't know either.
But 2 kilograms of that, which is apparently whale vomit. And it had squid beaks in it. Squid beaks? I don't quite get that. But anyway, it had. And he then carried out tests at home, including sticking a hot needle into it. But the key confirmation apparently was that a guy at Citizens Advice agreed it was whale vomit. So CAB are spreading their expertise more widely these days.
Indeed, yes. Whale vomit, and you can't take it back. We can't take it back. Yeah, there we go. Well done to CAB.
Yes.
It's moved a long way since I worked there.
Well, quite, and so did I way back in the day. But anyway, sadly, a whale vomit expert claims it's not whale vomit, it's sewage grease he's got. So there we are.
That'll line him. God alone knows where the beaks came from, but never mind.
Quite so. And finally, my third and final, probably relieved to hear story, the banana cam on Snowdon. Have you come across this, Alan?
I've been up Snowdon recently, but go on.
So, and sorry to your Welsh listener, or maybe even listeners, I can't pronounce YRWYDDFA, which I think is how it's intended to be referred to these days. Anyway, on Snowdon, they've set up a solar-powered webcam in a metal cage at a secret location to stream shots of a decomposing banana skin in the hope that this may stop visitors dumping banana skins and other fruit peel on the paths up Snowdon. Now, I mean, I think people who just dump rubbish as they're walking up Snowdon are beyond the pale, really. But whether a webcam streaming shots of a decomposing banana skin will change their behaviour, I'm a bit less sure, Alan.
Well, they have the same problem rather more so in the Himalayas, or the Himalayas, as I believe we call it now. But the people throw, the remnants of fruit of various kinds away, saying, well, it'll decompose. And if you threw it away in your back garden and you live at sea level, it probably would. It still take quite a while, but it probably would. But it won't on Snowdon. It'll just lie there virtually forever. And I think that's what the camera's doing. It's showing that we've been doing this for 6 months, and soon it'll be a year and 2 years, and it'll still be a banana skin. It'll have gone black, but it'll still be a banana skin. It won't have decomposed.
Yeah. So it's kind of educating people, I suppose.
That is the long-term purpose. Yeah, don't throw... I mean, I never understand, even with stuff that would biodegrade, I never understand why people go to a beautiful place and think, this is beautiful, isn't it? I'll just leave me can of lager here. Well, you cretins. Who do you think's going to hoover up?
Quite. Have I got time for a very quick, serious question?
Go on.
Super injunctions are in the news again. And I'm not going to make any specific references, of course, but they're in the news again. I wondered, because references to this crop up from time to time, could you tell me what your understanding of a super injunction is?
Yes. It covers every media outlet you can imagine, and rather than saying the Daily Beswick cannot report that, it says you cannot report anything related to this, you cannot report that the event that's being discussed happened, you cannot report anything in relation to this, not the names of the people involved, not even the name of the accuser if there be one. So it's an all-consuming injunction prohibiting discourse in any way, shape or form, or any part thereof.
And that would include saying that there was a super injunction.
Well, you can say that the super injunction exists. What you can't do is say who's got it.
Okay. Yeah. No, that.
So if somebody libelled me, and I tell you now, the chances of me even attempting to do anything about it are nil, because I don't give an arse. But if somebody was about to libel me, I could bring out an injunction saying, or I could seek an injunction and maybe even gain an injunction saying that person is not allowed to say anything about me. And that would be an injunction. That would be an order. A court order, they're all injunctions, but the super injunction is all-consuming. Not only could they not say that I did what is alleged to have happened, but that it happened.
Right. Okay. That's clarified it for me. Thank you, Alan.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, I might be wrong, but have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do Peter?
Hello, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
How are you? Are you well? Yeah, good. Well. I'd like to talk about the weather, which is always an interesting topic. I mean, we're having absolutely abysmal weather, aren't we?
Well, it's raining.
Compared to other places which are kind of seemingly on fire.
Well, it was the adjective. We're certainly having weather. To say we're having abysmal weather, that's dependent. I mean, I think the people who are burning to death on the continent may well think they're having abysmal weather.
I think they probably would. But we're having extremely different weather, aren't we?
Different? What do you mean? We're having weather?
Well, I've modelled weather in my time, and I worked in an institute where weather was modelled at a considerably high degree. It was 20 years ago, but models looking at climate change, okay, and models looking at scenarios concerning climate change. And one particular model suggested that actually at our particular latitude we would suffer global cooling. And one of the reasons we'd suffer global cooling was as a result of exactly forest fires in Canada.
I'm a bit confused. I'm a bit confused because you said you talked about globally, and then you said our latitude will have global cooling, but our latitude isn't global. Our latitude is just that bit. Global means all of it.
Sure. Okay.
So I'm confused. So what are you saying? Because that seemed... If you're talking about globally, that is the Earth. If you're talking about our bit of it, which bit are you talking about?
The distribution of this is not necessarily even.
I've no idea what you...
Just this, okay? If we are... I think it's entirely reasonable. It's down to mass, I suspect, and the amount is normally dropped into the Atlantic Ocean there.
The amount of what? When you say, Peter, I'm not able to read your mind, and I'm often grateful of that.
Yeah, go on.
When you said the amount of what?
The sheer amount of smoke, the amount of
smoke,
the amount of not well burnt wood, okay, that is the product of forest fire, produces a huge amount of smoke that comes across the Atlantic. This is normal, okay. This process is quite normal, but there has been a huge amount of forest fire in Canada. And I just suspect this is starting to do something a little bit like a nuclear winter for us, where this is high in the atmosphere. This causes raindrops to form high in the atmosphere, causes this kind of immense...
So let me try and paraphrase you so that we've got some idea of what it is you're saying. You seem to be saying that the weather we're experiencing at the moment, which you described in the way you did, but the rainy weather we're receiving at the moment, and the cool weather we're receiving at the moment, you seem to be suggesting that's in some way being caused by the smoke from the forest fires in Canada. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think that could well be the case, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I do believe that. And if you observe our cool weather, there was a pulse of it around about 6 days after the first pulse of forest fire in Canada, which was then brought under control. I'll leave it there.
Okay, I'll leave it there then. I'll do Neil.
Oh, I was thinking raindrops and falling. So yes, that's the difference. So yeah, I'd like to speak about, before 11 o'clock, I normally drive my old subject, but about electricity. I think a chat before 11 o'clock. Yeah, it's because you know, it's actually, I think you're asking the difference between AC and DC. What the difference is. I'm not a bit of it like that, you know, but it's that, it's the AC we've got is 240 volts RMC, but RMS squared, but it goes to about 750 volts. So if you touch it, it's going to belt you.
Volts don't really do you much harm. It's the amps that do.
I was in the REMI. That's why we always used to put they always told you put one on in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with high voltages, because if you actually touch a live thing, then it'll go down the side of your body, down the side of your leg, and go to earth. So it won't cost your heart, because it only does about 5 milliamps to kill you. It costs your heart.
You've now moved from voltage to amps.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Well, amps aren't. You don't. Voltage is one thing. Amps are the other.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah. How about I'll just change my song, superconductors. It's all the electricity sort of theme, yeah. In that, yeah. So I the superconductor, walked into a pub and he said, He said, get out. He said, but he left without resistance.
Very good.
There, very good. No, cheer up, my friend. Bye-bye.
Yes, I will. Well, you've gone now, so it's a lot easier. How do Jacqueline?
Good evening, Alan. Thanks. I paid in 4 cheques the other week into an account. All of them from the premium bonds. 3 of them went through, but 1 of them didn't. And the premium bond people haven't cancelled it. It was a bank that cancelled it.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 went through and 1 didn't. They said, we're sorry, but a cheque was paid into your account, has been returned unpaid by the bank. And that's the clearing bank at the other end.
Mm-hmm.
So how come the bank accepted 3 of them, but not the 4th one?
I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
It would appear weird, particularly as it was such an organisation that is known for sending out cheques on a particular date every month. But yeah, I don't know.
But they weren't the premium bond people who stopped it. It was the clearing bank at the other end.
Well,
they just said
presumably the premium bond have replaced it.
No, I'm going to. I've phoned them up and they want the cheque returning. But what happens is they destroyed them at the other end. But they sent me a photocopy. I mean, it's £100. I mean, £25. I wouldn't be bothered, but for £100, I got four cheques in the same day. One was a replacement, but you know, there's a date on premium bonds valid within 3 months.
Yeah.
And a lot of the cheques are 6 months, aren't they? But the premium bonds...
In normal circumstances, a cheque is 6 months, but the premium bonds and other large organisations prefer that people submit them within 3 months.
Yeah, they will replace them. However, this was it was within the time anyway. But if anybody's sitting on any payments of premium bonds, they want to look at that cheque, and all you do is phone them up, and they will replace them anyway. Because I got a replacement, and then I got three £100 cheques and a £50 cheque. And I phoned them up and said, well, send the cheque, but I could only give them a photocopy. But it's most peculiar that out of the 4 cheques all paid in at the same time, the bank didn't pay out on the one of them.
Well, of course,
Weird, isn't it?
the bank doesn't deal with 4 of them. It deals with each of them separately. So there must have been something that their computer system decided it didn't fancy, or at least the clearing bank decided it didn't like for some reason.
The computer said no. But I just thought that if anybody else had got premium bond cheques, look at the date on it anyway. Mine was well within the date, but if they don't put it in when they get them, they can't hold them for more than 3 months, and then they need to phone them up, and then they will send a replacement.
It's so much easier now to, if it's possible, to have your premium bond account online, and then the money will be paid.
I don't have that.
Well, in that case, no. But for others, you then get your winnings, as they're called, directly into your bank account.
Well, they did say that. Any future winnings, this is, maybe 2 years ago, any future winnings, we will pay it into your bank account, and they haven't done it. So maybe I will tell them to do it and stop messing around.
I was rather under the impression, I could so easily be wrong, I was rather under the impression that they only did that if you operated online, but I could be entirely wrong.
Oh no, I don't have a mobile phone. I don't want anything like that. I don't need it, really.
Well, that's fine.
I just feel sorry for all these people when they get on the bus or the train and everybody's head is bowed and they're not saying a prayer. They're looking at their ruddy phones. It's sad, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. But I don't use one, so...
when the seasons are changing, you know, you've got all in the spring, it's bursting into greenery, and the lambs are coming up, and then, you know, there's so much to miss looking out the window instead of having your head bowed down. Maybe we're all going to be born with our heads, you know, our necks in a funny shape.
Well, they're already quite funny.
And as far as the rain is concerned, it's only water.
That is true. It is only water.
It soon washes off. I remember one summer, and it didn't seem to stop raining for 6 months. 6 weeks, 6 weeks. And my dog at the time would not stay in. If it was raining, tough. He had to go out, and we went out, and we got soaking wet, and had all the towels ready for him when he came back. But it was more than 6 weeks solid. Didn't stop raining. But, okay, it's rain, it's water. Hey-ho. We can't go without water, can we?
No, but of course too much of it's not so clever either.
And too much of a hot sun is not so clever either.
Absolutely. So
I can't do it. I can't handle that.
Everything in moderation, I think, is the...
he's sensitive. If there was an Olympic gold for sweating, I would get it every time.
Well, why worry? It's only water.
That's right.
Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. Just pick up your phone and have your say. That say can be about whatever you want it to be about, because we don't care. We're not big enough to care. So 0800 218 2255. I was in Duganwy yesterday. It's a village, a little coastal village. Well, it's actually on the banks of a river, but it's in North Wales, as the name might imply. And I was just standing there, minding my own business, waiting to cross the road, which is quite busy. It's near the station, and there was a set of traffic lights for wee pedestrians. And I was just standing there, waiting for the lights to change to the little green man. And a middle-aged couple arrived with their dog. Sit, was the command to the dog. And it did, on my foot. I'm awfully sorry, said the chap, and pulled the dog's lead with no thought for the idea that the creature had just wiped its arse on my foot. The dog stood up. It would have been strangled if it hadn't. No, by him pulling the lead, not me. I'm too kind for that. The dog stood up and then immediately jumped up against me. I wanted to kill it. I'm sorry I did. Why am I putting up with it? The owner, to be fair to the owner, if you can be fair to a dog owner, was profusely apologetic. But what is it about so many dog owners that they believe their little ball of teeth and turds is worthy of the air it breathes? Right, further on. How do Elliot?
Hi, Alan. Yeah, brilliant song. I believe that was one of the few, well, not the few songs, but one of the songs that Paul McCartney regularly cites as being one of the ones he wished he'd had written in the 60s. God only knows. I'm sure I've heard that somewhere anyway. Yeah, I wanted to call up about what the subject one of your previous callers brought up about. I think I'm getting it right, because I didn't actually get the very start of it, but I'm assuming he was talking about long-wave radio 4 next March or something along those lines being sort of rationalised or something like that, is it?
Well, the individual was actually talking about radio telephone air in RTE, and they're doing away with their long wave frequency, I believe. But right. it would not system, if you like. They all get it somewhere else.
Whether or not this EMF sensitivity and various other things that as well means that people can't have access to digital or online services, not just radio but other things. Do you think that might have been an oversight in this consideration?
I don't know enough about EMF sensitivity. You say it's electromagnetic. But the television works on electromagnetism, the internet works on electromagnetism.
Yeah, it's
everything.
The frequency of it is much higher with digital stuff like Bluetooth,
right? So
the Wi-Fi and things like that. So the wider spread frequency of analog stuff doesn't seem to be of an effect.
Well, analog hasn't got long left, and yes, that will mean that people such as yourself may well not have access to radio programs anymore. They might find a way of doing that differently, but I think it's unlikely because like now they don't do much television for the blind.
Yeah,
I mean, they do allow the blind not to pay the full television license because they don't have access to the pictures generally.
Out of interest, why is BBC radio service not part of the license fee?
It is.
It funds it, but you're not obliged to pay it if you just listen to the radio. Is that right?
No, you're not. Years ago, there used to be two licenses: a television license and a radio license. The radio license was considerably less than the television license, and at some point it was decided that collecting two license fees cost the same as collecting or collecting two license fees doubled the cost of collecting the revenue for the BBC. So they amalgamated the two, and you just collect once. So that halved the collection costs. So that's what they did.
But how come they made the radio essentially a free service if that's the only platform that you want to?
Well, none of it is free. It is all funded by the license fee. They just, as I say, instead of paying whatever it was, 7 and 6 or something for radio, you now get radio as part of the television service. It's a BBC broadcasting service.
I happen to think that radio is a better medium for many reasons. I think it's a more intellectual medium than TV. I think the fact that a hell of a lot of programming on the radio is live. A lot of it's like this, where you can actually interact with the presenters and do phones and stuff. Can't do that on TV. A lot of it's local news. A lot of it's very sort of like immediately geographically relevant. I just think that TV can be a bit sort of dummy. Like it can be a bit juvenile, shall we say, for want of a better word.
You're pushing at an open door here. I mean, I'm a fan, more of a fan of radio. If fan's the right word, I get more enjoyment out of radio than I do, and more money. I get more enjoyment out of radio than I do out of television, and I prefer radio. I prefer doing radio to doing television. I think it's due
a renaissance, actually. I really do. I think there's a generation that haven't maybe been exposed to it to understand its importance and its history and its
the problem with that is the generation you're talking about are more accustomed to, this will sound selfish, but they're more accustomed to getting what they want when they want it. The days of people saying, I must get home in time to sit down and listen to the Archers or listen to Allan Beswick or even listen to the 6 o'clock news or watch the 6 o'clock news are well gone. People now, a very substantial proportion of younger people don't bother with those
Strangely enough, though,
locations.
I know what you're saying, but strangely enough, the internet still hasn't been able to fulfill the place of that locality thing that I'm talking about. You can access all sorts of stuff now, obviously on demand and as and when you want it, but there's not that immediacy of your local area being given to you live on the internet, like you might think. Like, even though of all the things that you can do, there's nothing that's filled the place of that.
Well, you see, I hesitate to say this, but you're actually wrong, because you can go on the internet and listen to this program right now.
Well, yeah, but it is this program, isn't it? It's not. It's the exact same program that you'd get. Yes. Whether you were listening to it on FM or not.
But it doesn't matter. We're talking about the delivery process rather than the what it is that's being delivered. What is being delivered is being delivered right now on FM. I think we're still on medium wave. I can't be sure.
I tune in on FM.
Well, so we're on FM, we're on medium wave, we're on digital audio, we're on the internet. So, and it is the same for all those mediums. It is the same product. This is going out on those things. The difference is, if you wanted to listen to this in Billericay, you could, but you couldn't on the radio. If you wanted to listen to this in Czechoslovakia, you could, but you couldn't on the radio. If you wanted to listen to this in Dorset, you could, but you couldn't on the radio. So, so all the local stuff.
Does that not have a habit of diluting the whole thing, though? I mean, like Radio Manchester was always a regional radio program, and okay, it's a nice thing that people from further afield can tune in, but does that not make it no longer geographically relevant?
No, we still broadcast. I mean, this programme is regional, so this programme goes out on Radio Manchester, Radio Merseyside and Radio Lancashire, so it's northwest regional. But we still, during the day, the Radio Manchester still does Manchester and its environ stories, Greater Manchester stories. Liverpool has Merseyside and Lancashire does their geographic area. And that will still be the same on the internet. Now, there will be certain programmes, late nights will be a national programme, because...
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, it goes flicked over to a national thing.
Yeah, well, it won't be switching over to a national thing. It will be a national programme specifically, this sounds contradictory, but specifically for all the local radio stations. It will be it will be for all of them. It's not like we're tuning into Radio 5 Live, heaven forbid, or 4 or whatever. It'll be BBC Local Radio National, if you like.
Yeah. Right, yeah. No, but I'm here just to sort of bring to light the EMF sensitivity element of it, and also just a nod of the cap to the guy that phoned earlier as well. So,
well, it will be what he will be. It doesn't affect me, that's for sure. I don't get any say in it.
Cheers, Alan. Thanks for your...
Good on you, mate. Have a good night. I'll do Jimmy.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm awfully well, thank you.
Good. I was going to ring up about something slightly different, but what the gentleman just said there rang a bell. I mean, at the end of the day, the radio, it's very different, isn't it? You can't... You genuinely can't. I mean, Freddie Mercury had it, didn't he? When he said what he did, you can't get that grasp. You can't get the reach that you can with radio. So yeah, but apart from that, it was about the cost of living crisis and the fact that I'd like to hear what you think. At the end of the day, I mean, I've moved all over the country, and I'm in Merseyside now, but yeah, I think that well, obviously the Tories have to go, but I mean, what do you do?
Well, what you do is, when the opportunity presents itself, you vote for the party that you think will serve you best.
I get that, but in terms of where do you go? I mean, for example, so you've got the consultants who are striking now, and they're on an average, as I understand it, about £150,000 a year, aren't they? And I mean, that's a lot of money. And that's just off
it is a lot of money, but it is a lot of money. There's no escaping. I don't think the average is 150,000, but it's certainly over 100 and possibly over 100.
These are the consultants, not the junior doctors. These are the consultants.
Yes, I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But the reason the consultants are striking is because they say, I don't know whether they're right or not, but let's go with your 150,000. They say the 150,000 we're getting on average now is considerably less than what we should be getting if our payments had kept up with inflation. So we now, the consultants who are earning 150,000 are actually earning 20,000 less than we would have been had the government done the decent thing. That's what they're saying.
Okay. So let's take the private sector then. Okay. So if you're a junior lawyer or a junior, like a partner in a law firm or an accountant or another profession, you're not paid by the public. Then what are you on there?
Well,
it won't be far off, you know.
Well,
especially if you're a suspended.
Listen, Jimmy, don't fool yourself by saying that all those people you just listed are not paid by the public. Everybody is paid by the public. Your newsagent is paid by the public. When you go in and buy a paper, you're paying the newsagent. You're a member of the public.
No, I'm drawing a very simple.
Everyone in business is paid by the public.
I'm drawing a very simple comparison. I'm sorry, you're right, and you're right in what you say. But at the end of the day, for example, like the criminal barristers. So if you were to be a lawyer, like you choose what you want to do, don't you? And you're either going to serve the public or you're not. Mm-hmm. And as a defence barrister, they understand it. Or I don't know, even a solicitor, that's what you do, isn't it? So,
well, let me tell you what's happening in that part of the business. Defence barristers are leaving the profession. They're leaving it because the money for a defence barrister is appalling when you consider what their colleagues make in other parts of that industry.
As I understand it, though, that they actually, they have to pay the bigger part of that as well, whereas the doctors get it for cheaper.
I don't understand what you mean. The doctors get it for cheaper.
In terms of the education, what you pay, it's a standard rate. But when you go on to do your I don't know what they call it now, but at the end of the day, it's door finals or LPC or whatever. That's not the same as what you do with your standard education.
Well, the clever people in our society tend to progress beyond the routine education that many of us had, and they go on and they study long and hard. To become a practicing criminal barrister takes quite a lot of time out of your life.
But there is no, I don't think there's any money in that anymore, whereas if you want to go on and be a consultant and practice privately, you could be up to £400,000 a year.
If you want to be a consultant and practice privately, yes, you could earn that kind of money. Except it's a bit like footballers. If you want to go on and be a footballer, you can earn £50,000 a week.
But the consultants who are striking are on that.
Well, the consultants that are striking are saying that we are consultants. We've spent 20 years working towards becoming a consultant, and the money we are earning, whilst it looks like a lot to many and is a lot, it is less than it would be had the government paid us according to the rate of inflation. In other words...
But do you not think if you've got to use a comparative against everyone else in the professional world?
Listen, Jimmy, what's happening at the moment is consultants are saying, I've had enough of this, I'm retiring. I've had enough of this, I'm going to work in Australia for double the money. I've had enough of this, I'm going to work in America for treble the money. And the consequence of that is when you need your liver taken out, there's no bugger there to do it. They've all pissed off to Australia and America because they can get more money there.
But Alan, everyone could do that.
Sorry?
Everyone could do that.
Not everyone could do that.
What? Everyone can't just say, I'm up?
No. They can leave.
We're left with nothing.
They can leave, but that doesn't necessarily mean that if they go to another country, they'll make a lot more money.
No, everyone could. No, genuinely. There's very little left in our country.
Oh, right. Okay, well, if that's your view, that's your view. I'm not going to try and change it. I'll do Margaret.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, I'm just inquiring. One of my daughters lives in a flat. Now, it's a basement flat, so you go in, and that's the living room. Go down the spiral staircase, the kitchen and the bedroom's there. Above, she's got rats dead in the ceiling. First of all, the water tank burst, and it was like a waterfall. She filmed that. And they packed the water tank up, they can't afford a new one. Then these rats come. And she could hear them in the ceiling, in the walls. Anyway, Rentacle came out and put the bait down. It took him 8 weeks to come back and look. He said, "Oh, have you got a plastic bag, love? There's one dead here with its head off." Put it in the plastic bag, put more bait down, went away, come back 8 weeks after. He said, "Oh, I'm very sorry to tell you, love, that was a nest of rats underneath your water tank." This housing knows all about it. They're putting it in hotel, other hotel, other hotel. She's pregnant with an Irish pregnancy. And so, Friday,
She's pregnant. Excuse me, she's pregnant with a what?
Irish pregnancy.
High risk, okay.
Yes. And we told her that she can't go inside the flat. So I've let the workman in on Friday. And straight away one of them said, what's that smell? I said, it's a dead rat. So he goes down the spiral staircase. He said, "Oh, I can't do it. Well, he said a few years ago he got Wheels disease off the rats.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Right, I'm going to tell my manager that we're not because what we wanted to do, take all the ceiling down in the basement, leave it, order the plasterboard. The housing was going to send these cleaners in to steam clean everything. All the stuff's in there. Everything's in there." And he said, no, love, we can't do it. I can't do it. I've got to go. He said, "I was almost dead with that, and I'm not touching there." But about 3 weeks ago, the rent-a-kill fella came in, and I said to him, have you got a pair of ladders to go in that little trap door? "Oh, I'll be all right." Came up, said, he said, "I just seen a few droppings, and it don't smell in there." But when the men came out on Friday, we took pictures of the rat droppings in the bedroom downstairs, and I sent it to my daughter's phone. And the housing just doesn't know where to turn. Doesn't know where to turn. She keeps having breakdowns and everything. You know, and she's 5 months pregnant. And I said to her, you know, you've got to speak up. "No, I can't, because it won't help me." I said, "You've got to speak up. Not nasty, nice, to get through to him." But she's just getting nowhere.
Well, if she's not telling them of the complaint, then she won't get anywhere.
No, she has told the complaints, but she doesn't like pestering them. Do you know what I mean? She'll do it now and again. But we did offer her an house, and then they phoned her and said, "Oh, sorry, that house isn't vacant because the people are staying in it. What we're going to do for you, you're a very good tenant, lived there for 9 years, had no bother, always paid your rent on time and everything, and we will give you a very good reference for you to go and get a private landlord." What? After 9 years. So she's stuck. We don't know what to do.
I think what she needs to do is get in touch with her MP.
Done that. We done that. She phoned. She said, right, I'll look into it. That was in April. She's phoned her back once. I'm still looking into it. The MP. I can tell. She's done that with the MP.
So where is? I mean, don't tell me the address, but where is she living at the moment?
In an hotel. Oh, what? A flat?
No. So the local authority are paying for her to stay in a hotel.
Yeah, and she's paying full rent, full council tax, water rates, electric and everything for that flat.
Mm-hmm. Well, there won't be much electric at the moment. There's nobody in it.
No, I know.
So she's in a hotel that the local authority are paying for while still taking her rent and rates and all the rest of it, yeah?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And their position, so their latest thing is, well, we'll give you a good reference if you want to go and get a private accommodation.
For her to get a private landlord.
Yes, and you seem to be suggesting she doesn't want to do that.
It's too expensive.
So that's the reason why she wouldn't want to do it, but yes, she doesn't want to do that.
No. She prefers to stay with a finger, you know.
No, I don't. She prefers to stay...
Housing. With housing. Like, you know, instead of a private landlord.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And they are offering her a way out of the current dilemma, which she isn't interested in, and that's how things go sometimes. But she needs to talk to them. And it's now July. If you're saying the last time she spoke to them was April, that really isn't enough.
No talk about the MP was April.
My apologies. But she needs to talk to the council. She needs to tell them, ring them almost every week and say, what is happening? Yeah. I need to know what is happening.
Doing that.
And yet a few seconds ago you told me that she doesn't like...
No. She talks to them, but she doesn't like me. I speak to them and, you know, and just say, well, you know, when you're going to help me and all this. She does, but she doesn't like bothering people. But
well, she's going to have to start liking it.
Yeah. Because the midwife told her to get in touch with, I can't even say it, General. I'm on air, but, you know, she did. And one person said, don't think for 1 minute because you're pregnant that, like you're going to go to the top of the list. She said, I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for help, please. Who do you go to for help? Because the MP isn't helping her. And you can't, to be quite honest, whenever she phones and she leaves a message, she don't get back. So I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do.
Has she spoken with...
Sorry, go on.
Has she spoken with the Citizens Advice Bureau?
Yeah, and they said that they're helping her out in an hotel, and more or less she'll have to wait until everything's done in the flat.
Well, that kind of figures, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, but I mean, the smell of that flat, all that smell is on all her life, all the furniture, everything. She's lost everything, and she even said, if you do give me somewhere to live, I'm taking nothing out of this flat. Nothing. Because it's all intimidated with the rats. There's all rat droppings all over the flat.
Well, the problem is that the council seem to be doing quite a lot. They've got workmen going to the property to sort it, and they're accommodating her in an hotel whilst it gets sorted. And I don't really see.
Anyway, it's not the council.
Well, it was when you kept saying the council, I was tricked into thinking you meant the council. Do you mean the housing association? Right.
Yeah.
Then she needs to speak to the housing association. And
yes, the spiral staircase is hanging off, and they said that we can just fix it because it's going to cost $5,000 for one of them. How can you take a baby down a spiral staircase into the bedroom? We're just doing everything, patching it up. And the water tank, that's leaking again, she's told him that. Because they can't afford a new water tank. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what she's going to do.
Well, she would be wise to press her MP rather than leaving it for months waiting for a response. And that might mean ringing every week and saying what is happening and basically make a nuisance of herself with that person.
Yeah.
It might be worth writing a letter of complaint to the chairman of the Housing Association. The chairman of the Housing Association isn't a hands-on person, that's a person that runs the board, the governing body, if you like. So it might be worth writing to them and see if she can press them, but she won't be able to do it by being meek. I'm not saying she should be rude, but she needs to be... She needs to be forceful.
Yeah. Right, then, because I'm like that, but I don't want to go too far with it because it's for her to do it.
Indeed it is.
But, I keep telling her. But anyway, it's nice speaking to you. It's just that I always listen to your programme and that, and I thought, I'm going to phone him and ask him.
Well, I'm glad you have, but she needs to be more active about her complaint.
Yeah.
All right, Margaret. Good luck with it. I'll do Calvin. Hello, Calvin.
Hello.
Hello.
Alan. Hello.
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 Alan, can you hear me?
Yes.
Is that Allan Beswick?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me? I couldn't hear me before.
No, I can't hear you. I'll do Joe.
Hi, Alan.
Hi.
Hello. I'm just calling in because I disagree with something that you said before about internet being more accessible for people to reach than radio for radio stations.
Say that again, sorry?
So you were speaking to someone before about the radio going online and radio stations not really exist anymore, and you said it's more of it'll be able to reach a wider audience. I actually would disagree on that point that you made.
Okay, go on.
Because I wouldn't actually know how radio works is when you go into the area and you pick up the frequency of that channel, whereas I only know about this channel from doing that when I used to live in Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to drive through Lancashire and I would hear this. If it wasn't for doing that, I would have never discovered this radio station. I wouldn't have just Googled BBC Radio Lancashire, Allan Beswick. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, in a sense, a lot of people... I feel like, in a sense, when the radio stations do go online, what that man... I can't remember the name of what that man said before is right. It will take away that local community feel of news because people won't be able to... People that don't already know about the station aren't going to discover the station. So, like you said, it's not really big enough for people to Google. And it is quite an interesting thing for local news. And it's also quite funny as well.
Well, I don't know about the funny side of it, but yes, it is inevitable, I suspect, that there will be people who live in the area and won't access it on the internet for a number of reasons, not the least of which some of people don't have access to it. But regrettably, that is the way that more and more people who listen to the radio are choosing to do it. That is the place where they're now enjoying their radio programmes. There are more, I don't know whether it's more, but there are a high proportion of the people listening to this right now who are listening via the internet. Now, that proportion... Pardon?
Sorry, I interrupted you, go on.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, how big that proportion is, I don't know. It's quite substantial, and it is slowly growing, whilst the number of people listening to what I'll define as actual radio is actually shrinking. So at
How do you think it's going to... Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So at some point, the radio side of it will be spending a fortune on transmitters and the like for very few people to access it, whereas they'll still have to do it on the internet, and the internet will have the vast majority of radio listeners there. So that's the loose statistics of it. So I take your point that people won't be able to cruise into an area, 10 years in the future and all the transmitters are gone. People won't be cruising in the area and finding their radio station. But I feel sure that a device will be invented that will enable people to do that. But also people are learning that, I'll cruise the radio. We now have, which is rather silly really, but there are people listening to this now nowhere near the Northwest. They're listening to it in Yorkshire, they're listening to it in London. But the bulk of the local radio people who are listening to it possibly are still on the radio, but before too long it will be the internet where they're hearing it.
I guess so, but like I said earlier, how many people that are listening to it online are new viewers that have only just discovered it today? I'm going to imagine that a lot of them were already listening to it. But yeah, like you said, I'm sure they'll make a device that will enable...
Well, that is what you hope, isn't it? That at some point, because it's not just us, there are commercial radio stations and the like that are doing exactly the same thing, because that's the way the world is going. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is irrelevant. If, as a broadcaster, you wish to have an audience, then you have to go where the audience is.
Oh, yeah. I'm just a bit of a Luddite, Alan, that's all it is.
Well, welcome to the club. The Luddite Club is a very active one, and I'm happy to be a member of it also. I bloody hate listening to...
I love, Alan, just to say, I love listening to this, and I'll be ashamed when you go. I think I'm one of the younger viewers. I must be one of the youngest viewers. I'm 28, but I love listening to it either way. Speak to you in a bit.
All right, mate. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. We're going to talk to Anna and to Calvin. 82255. I'll do Hannah.
Hello, Alan. You just mentioned that you were down in Deganwy.
I was.
Was it today?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, in Raining.
Aye.
Oh, I used to live there.
Ah.
And I eloped from that station.
You eloped from it?
Yes, to Scotland.
Oh, fantastic.
1956. No, we didn't go. We went to Hoyk.
Hoyk. Right, same thing though, isn't it? Getting to
yes.
Scotland, different rules.
Yes, yes.
Wow, brilliant.
Yes, I was only 17.
Yeah.
And I'm 84 now.
Blimey.
So, yes, it was nice hearing the name Deganwy down there. I used to live in Penmaen Mawr.
Ah, Penmaen Mawr, yeah.
Yes.
That's all right. I go for pizzas there. There's a great pizza in Penmaen Mawr.
And I moved up from South Wales up to Llanfair PG.
Oh, yeah, I'm not doing all that.
No. Yes, when I was a little nipper.
Wow. Well, there you are. Well,
So
Deganwy's lovely. It's not a big place, is it?
It's only little, yeah.
Yeah. But
it's lovely in Llandudno.
Yeah. Well, I sat in a cafe in Deganwy and just sitting there looking out towards Conway
Yes.
castle over the estuary and everything. It's just fabulous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fabulous, you know. But
Yeah,
yeah, what year was that? Was it when you eloped from the gangs?
1956.
Crikey. I was only 8. Wow. I mean, I hesitate to ask this, but I mean, how did your life follow on after that?
All right, yes.
Eh?
My husband died 25 years ago.
Oh, dear.
So we were together all the time.
Wow.
And we worked together. We had, got businesses. So,
But what about? But I mean, I know 2 couples that have eloped in those days. Not as early as you, but in when Gretna Green was busy, and 2 of them eloped, and they were together for a very long time, but not anymore. And the other ones, one of them died quite young, so that brought an end to that relationship, obviously, and the woman still speaks of her now dead husband. But talking to them about when they came back, the eloping, that seems to me, who's never done it, that seems to me the easiest bit. You go, it's all exciting, you're getting married and all of that, but then you have to come back.
Yes, to all the trouble.
Yes, well, exactly. That's exactly what they said. Then, and people, parents are saying, what the bloody hell? And it's too late, it's done. So what was that like?
Very traumatic. And you're very sorry after that you've caused such a lot of trouble. That is what we wanted to do.
But it's not, it's that thing, isn't it? You've not caused the trouble. It's the people that wouldn't let you do that you both patently, clearly wanted that caused the trouble.
Yes. Oh, well, never mind.
Happy days.
Yes.
Well, Hannah, it's lovely.
I thought you'd like to hear that bit.
Fabulous. I'm glad it all worked out and you had a long and happy life together, so that's fabulous.
We did, yes, and 2 lovely boys.
Excellent. And what if one of them eloped? You got a clip round the ear, wouldn't he?
Oh, you definitely would. And one of them was born in St Asaph.
Oh, right.
Because we moved up to Lancaster, and he was born in St Asaph because he was very premature, and we were down there for a weekend, and he decided to come.
Blimey, well, you can't stop him, can you?
No. Anyway, we shall miss you when you go.
Well, I shall miss talking to somebody like you, Hannah. That was fabulous. Thank you very much indeed.
Well, no start to you.
Indeed so. Have a good night. How do Calvin? We'll have another go. How do Calvin?
No, Alan. Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, all right, Alan. Yeah. Was that lady who was talking? Was she from Lancaster?
She moved up to Lancaster a good while ago.
Oh, yeah, that's where I'm from, yeah, Lancaster, yeah. And then what I want to talk about is, do you think we should reconsider joining the one market, because we just don't seem to get anywhere, do we?
Well, some people...
And I voted out the activist, so there you go. I voted out.
So why do you think we should apply to go back in?
Well, there's still a lot of people going over it, isn't there? And I thought that was... Well, let's get wrong thing right, like, what's the population in the UK? Is it 50, 60,000? Texas is bigger than us. There's about 15 billion there. And that's the reason I voted out. Right. We can't keep taking them. Now people say I'm not racist at all. But I just think that, I don't know. It seems everyone bloody hates it now, especially Europeans. When they want to go look at Eurovision Song Contest, they don't like it, do they?
If there were another referendum, and there won't be, but Calvin, if there were another referendum, what would you vote this time?
I won't blame. I won't blame, but I mean, it seems to me that we've got nowhere. They're still coming over. You know what I mean? And, no, I don't know why they're coming over. Why come to a little island where it's overcrowded and all that? There's not enough jobs for locals.
The answer to the question, why would they come to this little island, is because this little island is rich, and where they come from, they're poor.
Yeah, I can understand, yeah. Don't get me wrong about it. I mean, there's genuine reasons people coming, and then there's not genuine reasons. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I think about it a lot, like, you know, and I think, where would you like to live? I said, well, I'm up here, in this little island. But this little island seems to get, well, it's not getting any bigger. The population, isn't it? And I don't know how we're going to cope soon. What do you think?
I think we're doing fine, but you know, this little island is a very wealthy little island, and
yeah, it's a wealthy little island, yeah. But all the wealth is not with all the people, is it?
Well, there aren't many people in this country starving.
No, I'll agree with it. No,
yeah, so,
I will agree with you there.
Whereas some
no, I agree with you there. Yeah, that's true. Is that? Yeah,
that reassures me.
Yeah, but the other thing, we shouldn't have a place like that. It's quite. We shouldn't be having homeless people. I mean, I cannot imagine the problem that they ate. Well, for this country in the world, there's people homeless. That can't be right.
Well, the only way we will have fewer homeless people is if we build more houses.
Yes, I mean, where I live in Lancashire, they're going up all over the place. But the homeless people aren't going to it, because they're not going to get a mortgage, are they? Or pay rent where do you live at?
Well, perhaps we should
street, you know, this is it.
Perhaps we should build houses for which there's no need of a mortgage. You may have heard of the concept many, many years ago, council houses.
Well, I live in the council. Well, I live in the council flat. Yeah, so live in the council flat. Yeah,
so maybe that's
the answer. You want to build more council houses? Yeah, I'll be all for that. Yeah, but I mean, the councils don't seem to be doing a lot, do they?
Well, they're not allowed. They're not allowed. They're prohibited from doing so.
How do you make that? Well, that's what they want to read.
The government have cut the budgets of local authorities, so they don't have the money to build houses, and they are forbidden to use their savings, as it were. They're forbidden to use the
well,
money
that's
they have.
Information. I didn't know that one.
All right.
No, I didn't know that.
Right. Well, I'm glad to have been of service then, Calvin. Do have a good night, mate. How do Anthony?
Oh, good morning, Alan. Yeah, I just wanted to ring up about my recent stay at Arrow Park Hospital in the Wirral. I just thought it was very good. I got picked up with COVID-19. I went round to my mother's house and she said, well, I don't like the look of you, Anthony. He's looking very pale. And she said, I'm just going to phone up an ambulance as a precautionary measure. He came round pretty quickly, by the way, about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He didn't walk around. And I went off to hospital, got tested for COVID-19, and they also realised I had mild pneumonia as a symptom of COVID-19. So I had to stay in hospital for a week. In an isolation room, by myself.
Yeah.
I saw about 6, 7, 8 nurses and doctors a day, and very good. And the catering staff, the food was, very good indeed. I'd actually pay for that, but there we go. A lot of people say things about the NHS, and it's always quite true often. But so I was treated with antibiotics for the pneumonia. That was very good, and other medication and vitamins for the COVID-19. And I had to go on this breathing thing for about 40 minutes every day, which was absolutely boring. But I think it was meant to help my breathing again. But anyway, it was a bit like being in a nice prison. I'm a smoker, which probably doesn't help. But I couldn't even go out for a cigarette and a bit of an exercise. They just always had a nurse outside my door to make sure I didn't wander off, which I can't blame them. So some of the people there are critically ill, and if they got COVID-19, it would probably kill them. So I can understand. So I just wanted to say that anyway, that they do the best they can. As I said to the senior nurse for my ward, I said, I think you nurses should get about a 30% pay rise. You work your socks off, and even the doctors and consultants get a 20% pay rise. It annoys me that the government can find money to do various things, which often help Tories and their little companies and line their pockets, and they're not being a government for everybody, and especially the working class. And I'm disgusted. I certainly won't be voting Conservative at the next general election. Probably Labour, but we'll see.
Well, I'm sure the Labour Party will welcome you with open arms. Good to hear from you, Anthony. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. You can talk about anything you wish. You may have gathered. What have we talked about tonight? Truth and lies, meeting famous people. Apparently, I appeared on North West Tonight this evening, and I'm beggared if I know why. But there you go. It might have been an advert, a trail for this palaver. Somebody painted over his electric sockets and was then concerned, which is fair enough. Whale vomit on the beach, which turned out to not be. We talked about Michael Faraday. I was in Faraday House at school. We had to wear yellow shirts when we were, sports shirts. That was our designated colour. I don't know why. I don't know why it was yellow. I would have preferred not to have worn yellow, but, you have to do what you're told, don't you, at school? Which is all right, I suppose. Got used to it. Doing what I'm told. No, not quite. Still don't. Shufti tomorrow. Well, it's today. Monday's newspapers. The Times. The Spanish PM could gain seats but lose power after a snap election. Airlines lead the scramble to help 19,000 flee roads. It's amazing. I'm always staggered by the number of people that there are in holiday resorts from the UK. 19,000 in roads. Given that there's a different crowd every fortnight or so, it's quite extraordinary. Tory retreat from green policies to woo voters. The Aston Martin exemption for petrol ban on cars, or is on the cards, sorry. The Daily Telegraph front page, pressure on travel firms to fly Britons out of roads. Sunak, Tories won't concrete over the green belt. And 3 more banks close accounts over their customers' views. Oh dear, that's That's gaining purchase, isn't it? The Sun, Run for Your Lives, Brits escape the inferno with seconds left. That's another reference to the holiday resorts. Our Agony, same story, Rhodes Inferno Agony in the Daily Mirror. British families tell of the ordeal as they flee wildfires on the holiday island. 19,000 evacuated and emergency flights set to bring tourists home. The Daily Mail, I'm blessed my cancer was caught quickly. That's Jeremy Hunt. In an emotional interview, describes his fight with the disease that killed his parents and has now struck his brother too. That's the front of the Daily Mail. And The Guardian, thousands forced to flee the Rhodes nightmare. Spain, right fails to gain the expected clear poll lead. We might have mentioned that last night. And this is barbarism, shock over the airstrike on Odessa Cathedral. Daily Express, hell on earth. Guess what that's referring to? Tories warned over fiddling with green policies while Rhodes burns. That's quite good, isn't it? Well, it's not good that it's burning, but Rhodes, fiddling while Rhodes, fiddling while Rome, the Nero phrase, fiddling while Rome burned. Well, it seemed all right to me. Clearly not quite the same on you. Rhodes on fire is the story on the front page of the Metro. So Rhodes is it all. They're getting all the publicity because it's having a hell of a time with what the global warming lobby say is being caused by global warming. Others are saying it's just the summer. I don't know which is right. I know which I believe, but I don't know which is right. You've got 10 minutes if you want to join us, but you will have to be quick to fit it into that 10 minutes because we're going to use some of it listening to the fabulous Bonnie Tyler. And she's quite funny. Often when you interview pop stars that are a bit full of themselves, a bit like radio presenters, I think. I interviewed her and she was none of that. There was no side to her, as they say. She was quite funny. I don't even know what she said. I don't know what made it seem funny, but there you are. I remember one. I said that people call you the female Rod Stewart. And she said, I'm not that bloody ugly. I thought it was quite witty. Tony Blair. Yeah, that one. Now Sir Tony, but it was only Tony at the... Only Tony, that's good. It was Tony Blair. He introduced tuition fees for students. Do you remember? He did it despite saying that he wouldn't. Always the politician. Now, it was obvious that by introducing tuition fees, in other words, students had to pay a contribution towards their cost, the cost of their education. And it meant that loads of young people, particularly young people who were poor, ended up, with massive debts. Tens of thousands of pounds of debts. Now, when it was introduced, it was, that's all right, because when you get to 50, I think it was, the debt will be written off. You won't have to pay it back. That's gone. That's gone. The interest rates were low. Now they're comparatively high, and it's run by a private company, I think. But he introduced tuition fees and saddled thousands with debt. Now, Rishi Sunak's government's cashing in the chips by saying that some degrees just aren't worth the money, because the government still puts a bit in. And they're saying they're just not worth it. And I just think, how long will it be before the Prime Minister and the government says they'll no longer subsidise non-vocational degrees, thus taking us all the way back to the position before Blair set the dogs on the concept of education for its sake.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Tom Dewsbury. The Greek island of Corfu has become the latest to issue a wildfire evacuation order, while around 19,000 people have been fleeing from raging fires on Rhodes. The Foreign Office has sent a team to Greece to help authorities with bringing British tourists back home. The Red Cross are supporting evacuees and firefighters. Our reporter Azada Mashiri has been speaking to them.
They said they worked throughout the night and they were all taking it in shifts. They said it was simply devastating. Everywhere you looked, you saw fires, and that's because they were near the fire front from a safe location in the south. And they said that they were essentially providing lots of food and water to both tourists, locals and firefighters themselves who were battling these fires.
Spain's Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said that the right and far right have been beaten in the country's election, but the Conservative leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo has also claimed victory. Neither party has a clear majority, but the right-wing's People Party has received the most seats. Caroline Gray is a lecturer in politics at Aston University and says it will all come down to which party can form a coalition.
The hope by the far right that they would be able to enter into coalition with the Conservatives is now looking highly unlikely because they wouldn't reach an absolute majority together. And therefore, it looks more likely that if a government is to be formed, it would be led by the Socialists, but they would need the support of a whole array of other left-wing and regionally based parties.
Rishi Sunak has said that the government is on course to meet its target of building 1 million homes between 2019 and 2024. He has insisted the government won't concrete over the countryside. The Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, is to set out plans today on how the 300,000 homes that are left will be built. Fleur Anderson is the Labour MP for Putney and is not convinced by the government's plans.
The house building in England is due to fall to its lowest level since the Second World War. We do need more houses, and we do need to build them mainly in the brownfield sites. We can build all the houses we need in brownfield sites. Labour have always said we will support strong, robust protection to maintain legitimate green space. And it's under the Tories' watch that we've become one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world.
A group of more than 60 organisations has called on the government to do more to support social care in England. The Care and Support Alliance says a pledge made 4 years ago by the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson to fix the crisis in the sector has been left unfulfilled. The Department for Health and Social Care says more than £7 billion has been made available to reduce waiting times for care. And the actress Julia Roberts has been presented with a Manchester United shirt by the club's manager Erik ten Hag. The Oscar winner has been seen at Old Trafford for the club's matches. The red jersey with Julia on the back was given to her at a friendly against Arsenal in the US.